That I have been waiting for this morning because I want to put 2015 behind us. We're going to spend some time applauding and looking at the results from 2015, but 2016 is upon us. Before we move into it, I'd also like to, I feel really bad. Here we are in Southern California. It's a beautiful day in Southern California. Some of us can even get sweaty. It's a little bit so warm. But all of these poor people on the East Coast have been struggling with shoveling snow and trying to get out of their highway, trying to get back home, and trying to get groceries. So I just want to communicate to the people on the East Coast that you are in our thoughts. I don't want to end this town hall, this annual meeting, without saying thank you very much to all of you in the room and of those that work remote, because 2015 was a very successful year, and I'm very thankful. We are very thankful for your efforts. Very much so. Our presenters this morning, Tina Nguyen is in the house. She will be presenting for the first time from our credit area. Rob will be. We have DVP here too, and David will be presenting for the first time. We have the stalwarts, Patrick Ontel, who's going to help me, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank all of the people behind the scenes that put this town hall together. Jake DeSillo, Kevin Umeda, as well as Mike Jones. As you know, he's front and center every time at these town hall meetings. Let me leave you a little bit of a story. I had coffee with my grown son. He's about 30, his name's Gabe, and I was having coffee with him about a week ago, and he had just gotten back from his annual meeting too. And I said, and usually when we get to coffee, I'll say, hey, invariably what comes up is, how's work? And he goes, I had a rough week. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, I was expecting an excellence award, and I didn't get it. And Gabe has been with the same company, works for a networking company, Matt knows him. And he's a grinder, he's not on the sales side of it. He had a business degree, went back, got an IT degree, and he just digs it now. But he's in the grind. And he said, I felt like I wanted to quit because I didn't get the excellence awards. I go, all right, well, I'm doing math. I said, well, how many employees do you have? He goes, well, I have 188. I go, how many people got an excellence award? He goes, 8. I go, okay. He goes, and so are you going to quit? He goes, no, I talked to my boss, and I was, I just felt bad, but I'm okay now. And I said, well, why is that? And he goes, well, my boss took me aside, and he showed me the balloting. He showed me the balloting of who the people that got excellence awards. And Gabe made the top 16. In fact, he was number 9. And what he had said was, he as we were talking and having coffee, me an iced Americano and him a venti. Well, I think it's a Trento. But anyway, he said, everything that I did in 2015, we didn't realize the revenue that was expected from some of the initiatives that we had. And I think that it's an interesting story, and I think it relates to many of us at Balboa because it speaks to our culture. And that is that we are going to take some time to review the year and applaud all of the people that have had an outstanding year. And many of them, like Gabe, were very, very close. Doesn't mean we're not appreciative, but I think that as part of our culture, how do you get over the top? That's kind of a lot of what we're talking about. It is a grind, and you're going to probably hear that word a lot. It's a grind, but there's a difference between being number 9 and being the top 8 that get an excellent award or an excellence award. I have a story that I want to share with you. It's not a continuation of my story with my son, but I was in the SeaTac airport about 2 years ago, And I had my backpack on, you know, as I usually do, just waiting to board the plane. That's my backpack. And it's pretty nasty, isn't it? But it's mine. And so I had on my backpack. I was just waiting in line. And then I hear somebody reach out to me, and he says, "Hey, bro, you went to Kamehameha." You know, now I'm talking pidgin, yeah, so kind of. He goes, "Hey, you went to Kamehameha." I go, "Do I know you?" And he goes, "Hey, bruh, did you go to Kamehameha?" I go, yeah, how'd you know that?" He goes, "Your luggage tag." And I went, "Guess where I went?" And so he's talking to me, right? He goes, "Guess where I went to high school?" I go, "I have no idea." Because he looked like a mainlander from the lower 48 contiguous. And he goes, "I went to Punahou." Now you gotta understand, if you grew up in Hawaii, you hate the guys from Punahou. They're the privileged, rich people, right? Only okay, so Bruno went to high school like a quarter of a block from where I live. Punahou was like a block, 2 blocks away. And we hated those guys. Because I went to Kamehameha, which was all the poor, underprivileged Hawaiian kids. He goes, "Guess who I went to school with?" And I go, you know, and I'm racking my brain. Are we the same age? Because I know I kind of look a lot younger than, right? And he goes, "Who do you think I went to school with?" And I said, "Mosi Tatupu, Pro Bowl player, special teams for the New England Patriots." He goes, "No." Now, Mosi, as a side note, could grow a full beard in 5th grade. He was a man amongst men. Wrong guess. I go, Mark Tuine. How about Mark Tuine? He was part of the Great Wall for the Dallas Cowboys when Emmett, Troy, Michael Irvin played. He goes, "Fat chance. It wasn't Mark Tuine at all." He goes, "Brah, I went to school with Barry." I go, "Barry?" Now remember, this is not political commentary. It's just a story, okay? He goes, "Brah, I went to school with Barry." I go, "Barry who?" He goes, "Barack." Barack went to Punahou too, right? So that's where the whole story starts to come. And he goes, "Let me tell you about Barry." So he goes on to say, "You know, he's the president of the United States. He's done some amazing things. But when he was in high school, you know what he did?" I go, "I don't know, you know. We didn't hang out with guys from Punahou." He goes, "Bro, all he did was smoke dope." He goes, "And I was a good friend of his. We would go to Sandy's Beach, right? Once in a while we play golf together. Once in a while we play basketball." He goes, "I'm not that good basketball player either. But I can tell you, that guy could smoke dope like nobody else." So I had lunch with my buddies from high school, right? I've been out of high school for at least 17 years now. And we're eating lunch like at this little cafe in downtown Honolulu. And I go, "Hardy, Casey, what's the deal?" I told him this story. It was incredulous to me. And he goes, "Oh yeah, Barry smoked a lot of Pakalolo." So everybody knows except me. Now, you would say, "Wow, he's ragging on our president." And I would say that I'm not. It was just that we had a Hawaiian theme, right? I told you that. But I looked into Barack's past, because I haven't really followed his upbringing. Number one, he was born in Honolulu, right in and around the time I was born. His mom was white, she was from Wichita, his dad was from Kenya, and they met at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Now that's 4 blocks from where I actually grew up. All of this was going on. Where was I? His parents divorced, his mom married again, the family moved to Indonesia. Very interesting. But then Barry, because we're on like informal terms now. Barry returned to Hawaii, lived with his grandparents, and that's when he started attending Punahou. His mom went on to get a PhD, but then unfortunately passed on a little bit after that. The other interesting thing was that Barack Obama has been very open about a lot of what I've shared with you. that was a very unsettling time for him. He was trying to reconcile all of the differences that had gone in, social perceptions of a multiracial heritage and all of that. And he was kind of working through that, as many of us do ourselves. He was part of a chum gang. Anybody know what a chum gang is? I go, I have no idea. So all of a sudden I get a text from my wife. She goes, I looked up chum in the Urban Dictionary. It means he likes to smoke dope. I thought, all right. But anyway, it was part of his team. So the cool thing is that he was an innovator from the beginning, because his first initiative was to go green. Inhale to the chief. You may have read his book, The Audacity of Dope. But anyway, but then I went in deeper and I said, that can't just be the end of the story of our president. And it's actually incredibly impressive. Went to Columbia, like Pat, graduated from Harvard, was the president of the Harvard Review. He became a civil rights attorney. He taught constitutional law. Dave Sexton, I thought you'd appreciate the reference to the Constitution. He taught constitutional law at the esteemed University of Chicago, and he rose to prominence at the Democratic Convention in 2004. And since then, he's been in the midst during his last 7+ years. He has a healthcare plan named after him. He's been involved in gun control, Wall Street reform, Dodd-Frank, military involvement in Iraq. He ordered the hit on Osama bin Laden. And he's been involved in many of those talks and those contracts that were finalized in Paris regarding global climate control. And he's opened up many of the relations with Cuba. Very accomplished by any stretch. Why not you? Is, I guess, the question, right? All of these town halls have always related to not the team, but all of us as individuals. So let me share you my story. It is very short and way less successful, way less. You know, I grew up too, like I said, just a few blocks from Punahou. Grew up in a one-parent home and faced some adversity as well. After a pretty good run with many of the people that I have the pleasure of working with now, I was given an opportunity here at Balboa Capital. And that's really more where the story continues. My wife, Dee Dee, she coached me at the beginning, and she said, this is where you want to finish, and this is where you want to finish victoriously. I kind of went into this. This was 2007. Patrick and I started, Carla, about the same time. And I was expecting maybe that this challenge would be, say, 2 to 3 years, and here we are, we're finishing 9. Right after I started, we went into a recession, and you saw a lot of the graphs associated with that. I remember going to bed. I know this is probably that I take it too seriously, but I remember going to bed in the fetal position. I had a little pillow, but just kind of feeling that weight, that fear of failure, and hopefully someday kind of coming out of that fetal position and feeling successful. I remember it just being some very long days and nights, a lot of breaking and fixing, a lot of where's Greg? A lot of union negotiating. We've worked through a lot of stuff. And I also had a very impatient but supportive owner. And eventually we came out of this recession, and as you've seen and witnessed this morning, we've started to get a certain level of success, but we have way more to go, and that's 16 ahead. It's been a campaign. You've heard it. You could hear it that way. It's been a marathon. I think more than anything, it's been a grind. Right after the sentimental favorite, I bet, although I love Cam, the sentimental favorite for the upcoming Super Bowl is Peyton, right? I mean, we had a town hall about Peyton. Who is for the Broncos? Just taking yeah. Who's for Cam and the Panthers? Yeah. It's a great story, isn't it? It's a great story. One of the announcers right after the game was interviewing Gary Kubiak, and he goes, so how, what would you attribute to the success that you've had? And he goes, oh my gosh, the whole year was a grind. I think it's, I don't have like a lot of advice for you. I mean, there were some things that I just wrote down that I wanted to tangentially share with you. I would say that you as an individual performer, either in sales or in IT or in operations, I would say don't get ahead of yourself. Don't wilt. Fetal position is okay, but don't wilt in the enormity of the task at hand. Do one thing first, then do another. Be active. It's kind of, one of the things that I always try to do is I try to push out all of the peripheral, all the things that kind of make me all crazy and a little bit nervous, but it really have nothing to do with the end result. So I would do one thing and then another, and then I'd slim down my priorities. No matter what you do, you got to write it down. You got to write it down. But you can't write too much or you'll be unsuccessful. You got to write down the things that will definitely bring you the results that we talked about today in your sales or your operations life or your life as a whole. One of the things that I try to do too is I try to be excellent at only a few things. You just can't be everything to everybody. You just got to figure out what the essence is, I mean, like I said, there was a lot of union negotiating, and there's a lot of discussions over the years that Greg and I have had, and we grinded together, fought about certain things. But one of the things that I always appreciated about Greg is that he knew how to generate GM. He didn't really worry about a lot of the ancillary types of things or all of the over big things. He just said, right there, just keep it right and simple. Be excellent at a few things. And then the other thing too, and we both can work at this, is not to overreact at everything. Just don't get crazy, Wait till the video. I just love this video. Be excellent at a few things. Don't overreact and limit the distractions. One of the things that I try to do is just be unflappable. No matter what comes my way, no matter what adversity I face, I try to stay within myself. That's why you hear all the time, put one foot in front of the other. Keep it simple. One of the things that Pat and I always talk about when we face adversity or when we face the enormity of a project that's right ahead of us is we say it's a process. You can't slay that dragon today. You just got to first and foremost, you got to kick him in the shin. And then we'll figure out about how you're going to slay that dragon. Lastly, I would say to all of you, there's no magic pill you can take. There's no elixir that you can drink. Many of what you would take as an up-and-comer here is do what DVP says. Do what Patrick says. Do what Greg says. Do what Dave White says, because they've already proven in a 30-year history that it can be done here. I wish I could share with you the compensation within the company, but I can tell you that from an operations or a sales side, that there are more successful people than there ever have been at Balboa Capital. So why not you? We've heard Barack's story, we've heard my story, which wasn't that much, but anybody that's committed to the cause, I'm looking at you because there's a few of them that I expected from you the coming year. Anybody can realize their aspirations. Anybody can be a successful salesperson or someone in operations at the top rep. It gets down to the grind, you know? Anybody can make President's Club. I'm going to leave you with it's so funny, you know, my wife found this video, and she was crying, you know, when she sent it to me, and then she sends me the link on YouTube, and it has a little caption at the top, and I read it, and let me read this to you. And I go, hon, who wrote this? Because I thought it was like a motivational speaker or something. And she goes, I did. And so let me read it to you. She goes, sometimes when you want something, when you're really hungry for it, when it means everything to you, you fight for it with everything you've got. You stand strong and you face the adversity. You count the cost, you stare it down, and you roar right back. Then, when you're part of it, and it's part of you, you know it was well worth the fight.